Do you wish you had some kind of cheat guide before you became an adult? Things that school or maybe your parents don't teach you? Then check out the book called Adulting 101, My First Apartment and Car. Just search Adulting 101, My First Apartment and Car on Amazon. You can find it there. And it's about the basic things that we take for granted, like the common skill of checking apartment complexes at night before you sign your lease, or doing a background check on your roommate before you move in together, or not co-signing for something. The book is designed to help those parents or guardians help their young ones transition from their home successfully. Whether that is getting a roommate, how to spot a really crappy landlord, or how not to buy an awful car, these are some of the things that they've learned throughout their own personal experiences. So check out Adulting 101, My First Apartment and Car on Amazon, and give your kids the cheat codes to things that we wish we had. Check out Adulting 101, Things I Wish I Knew, My First Apartment on Amazon today.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Is going to WrestleMania. Claymore. Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It's Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. Monday Night Raw happened last night at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I was there for Raw 25, and this one really was pretty close in terms of star power and just a really good show. I mean, I feel like I'm on the bandwagon of everything Triple H does is pure magic, and everything Vince McMahon did sucked. That to me is a complete overgeneralization of things, but it also is hard to ignore the freshness that Triple H has brought to the product. He has now taken everything that fans think they know about wrestling, everything that they think they know is going to happen, everything they think they know that WWE does, and how they pattern, all the patterns that WWE has with champions and when returns will happen and finishes and how they happen. Triple H has taken that and torn it up. Now, not that every outcome of every match is going to be unpredictable for unpredictability's sake. That's a foolhardy strategy. But the approach to wrestling feels different, and the approach feels different by the week. We all knew that the changes Triple H was implementing were small. They were minute. They were just at first a little bit of a different camera angle here and there. Here's bringing back a couple of people. It has changed now, just 2-3 months in, to people being brought back you'd never thought you'd see again. Promos feeling more organic overall. And yes, camera angles are different. But Triple H has done one thing that has eluded the WWE product for so long. And it's the one thing that we were told is there. And it's just inherent watching the product. This is just what it is. It's anything can happen. How many times have you heard that over the last 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, 1 year, 2 months, however long you've been watching the product prior to Triple H taking over? Did you hear the announcers say anything could happen? And you knew anything and everything was true but that, because it felt like a very controlled product. You felt like you knew how matches were going to end. You saw returns coming a mile away. Championships being won and lost. Certainly, there were many times that it happened that you didn't expect it, but it felt just kind of like a product that kept just going through the same cycles, the same patterns. And that's because it was going through the same man, Vince, who admittedly has given us some of the best content that we've ever seen in professional wrestling. The man is a genius. But the fact is, just the objective truth is, when all the creative has to be vetted by one man, he's only one man. You likely are going to get the same results, even if you're giving new ideas to him. He was very stubborn in his ways, for better or worse. And I know that many people viewed him as the devil. I never did. I looked at him as a businessman, a stubborn man, at times a very out of touch man. Certainly, yes. And as he grew older, that's kind of the way things work when you get older. Father Time is undefeated, folks. Father Time gets us all. There are no exceptions, even Vince McMahon. So that said, I think time was his worst enemy, and it's for the best that this happened. And I don't know what Vince is doing right now. I don't know if he's watching the product. Maybe he's disgusted by it. I don't know. Maybe he loves it. Who knows? Eventually, Vince will come back, by the way. If anybody thinks that Vince McMahon not coming back is not going to happen, you've got another thing coming. What I mean by coming back is not taking back the CEO position, but maybe coming back to, for a Hall of Fame, or coming back to host Raw, or maybe just coming back to make a major announcement on behalf of whatever story's going on. Vince will be back in some kind of limited capacity, in not a managerial role, though. I want to be very clear. It's not going to be a managerial role, and not in any kind of position of power. It'll just be for whatever's going on at the time. And of course, inducting himself into the Hall of Fame. How can you not have Vince in the Hall of Fame, right? It's impossible. He's the one that created it. But that I think is a ways off. And I'm not trying to start any rumors. I haven't heard anything. It's just my own thoughts. But back to Raw. Back to this feeling that Triple H has brought back. Anything can happen. It really feels like that now. And it feels like it's getting better by the week. And sure, there are some things that are stupid, don't make sense. I hit on things every week that I don't like. But right now, what I'm seeing is the vision of what Triple H, the beginnings of the vision of what Triple H views as professional wrestling. And one thing that I think we're going to always remember Triple H saying is what he said on Friday night, that just when you think you've reached the end, you'll realize it was just the beginning. Something to that effect. And I don't know exactly what he's alluding to. I don't think it was The Fiend. It very well may be Roman Reigns' run as champion when you think he's finally at the end. It's just begun. I hope not. God, I hope not. But I think it's just kind of a general play with your mind statement, and we can dissect it, and he knows we're going to dissect it. And what the hell is he talking to specifically? What's he talking about? And it could just be a general statement that he was making of, when you think something's over, that's when it's just begun, right? And so anyway, that was a very interesting statement. And overall, I wanted to comment on the product, which I think has been just so refreshing. And you actually look forward to watching the shows now, where before, it's not that they weren't, it's not that they were always awful. We had some really good shows over the last 5 years that Vince McMahon has really gone downhill. I mean, again, Father Time, but it became more of a chore than I wanted it to be, as I'm sure you, with this kind of the same flavor of the product. It's a great product, but it's the same flavor of the product. And I think that's what fans desperately needed to see change. So let's get into the specifics, okay? Two major returns of, one, Gallows and Anderson, and two, Brock Lesnar. Yeah, like what? Brock Lesnar. I want to talk about the Brock Lesnar thing first, because that to me was such an out of left field move that I don't hate, but I think it was Triple H giving his version of what Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar should have been. At least the beginnings of this. It's just part two of what I think was a disappointing part one, because if you remember part 1 with Bobby and Brock, which happened just a few months ago, I think that you look at it and say, okay, that's cool, but the setup was terrible. Why? Because if you remember, Brock Lesnar dismissed Bobby and didn't even know who he was. Just being very dismissive, kind of joking around, where Bobby was trying to get him to be serious. And Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley was just not well executed from a storyline perspective. The way Brock Lesnar was dismissive of Bobby really took away from that story, because the story that you should tell is monster versus monster, beast versus beast, two guys that have run parallel careers and have never crossed paths. They've always been two ships sailing by one another, but never into one another. And I think they could have an amazing sit-down interview. I think that would be the best thing. And I know that Brock has adopted this kind of more lighthearted, likable cowboy type of persona that I think is a little bit more him. But you can't always do that. Ponytail or not, you need to be that old Brock Lesnar at some point, and you can't bring out the jokey side, the lighthearted side with Bobby. That's a program that needs to be serious. It has to be. Otherwise, you're taking away the best part of this whole thing. You're taking away the soul of it. Because if one party doesn't feel like the other one's worthy, then why should I? To me, the first round of Brock acting like he didn't know who Bobby was made Brock look stupid. It made Bobby feel insignificant. And it poured cold water on a campfire that was roaring. And it was just the worst way that you could have approached it. And now Triple H has brought back Brock, and he had Brock attack Bobby Lashley, give him two F5s and then a Kimura. Kimura? I don't know. I purposefully pronounced Gunther incorrectly just to anger some people, because I have made a bet with myself. I made a promise to myself I will not say Gunther's name, and I can't say it because then that would be foolish, right? But I will not pronounce it correctly. I will pronounce it the way I want to. Now I'm just too stubborn, okay? Now I'm too far in. I can't go back. But Kimura, there, I think I said it right. He put Bobby in that, and then Bobby had to compete, or decided to compete, and defend his United States Championship against Seth Rollins. Seth was egging him on and saying that you said you were a fighting champion, and then called him out and saying, I thought you were supposed to be a soldier. You're a disgrace to this country. And that's what set off Bobby. And the crowd was behind Bobby at this point. Bobby went into the ring and said, all right, ring the bell. He's got an injured arm. Immediately tries to spear Seth to end it early, and Seth counters into that beautiful pedigree. That's as smooth of a transition for a counter to the spear that I've ever seen. And yeah, okay, he doesn't have his arms hooked completely to complete the look of the pedigree, but how in the F are you supposed to actually you do the arm part of the pedigree as well, where you hook your opponent's arms? That's to even attempt that, number one, is probably dangerous, and you've got a split second in mid-air to hook both arms safely. Good luck. So he just kind of does the most important part, which is drive the opponent's face into the mat. Great beginning to the match. And Bobby had a hope spot with the spear, and ultimately it was the stomp that got Rollins the victory, and he is now the new United States champion, which I told you guys was going to happen. I didn't know Brock was going to be involved. That I obviously had no idea, nor did I think anybody else I watched on Twitter or anywhere else were calling for Brock to be there in the Barclays Center. But that to me is a really nice, unexpected addition to this whole thing. And I thought at first, I was like, is Brock out here to challenge Lashley for the U.S. title? Is that why Brock is out here? I actually thought that at first. And that's not the case. He was just there to take him down, and then we had Rollins pick the bones. It wasn't a heel turn by Brock, I don't think, although people didn't know what to do. They kind of felt a little bit of a tug and pull in their heartstrings of where their loyalties lie. Ultimately, people are going to side with the bigger star, I think, in Brock Lesnar. But Bobby Lashley is a much more humble guy, but serious guy. And I just hope that they do this program right now. Now, I know Bobby said to Byron Saxton that he was going to, he's not done with Seth. He's going to take on Seth at some point, but I think he said next week he's going to call out Brock Lesnar. So that program is going to continue. Maybe Brock, or rather Seth and Bobby will have their rematch. Rollins is going to carry that championship for some time. I could see Seth carrying that till WrestleMania and beyond. I mean, it's so needed. Yeah, it's not the undisputed Universal Championship. There is that. And it also puts the damper on my hopes for a Rollins-Reigns matchup at Survivor Series, which I have been talking about for months, that I thought was going to happen. And now with him as the U.S. champion, it doesn't make quite any sense for him to face Roman. We'll see. I don't think it's out of the question completely, given that Triple H has done away with Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series. Thank the Lord. But I don't know. It's still possible, but to me, even if he does get that matchup with Roman, I don't see how in the hell that he captures the championship, especially if he's U.S. champion. It's just not possible. So at least for the time being, he has taken himself out of the equation to face Roman Reigns. So, but no worries. Roman has got actually a lot of people he could face over the next several months. Credible people, and yes, one of them is the Fiend. And I think the Fiend will target Roman Reigns at some point. I think he will. Whenever he faces Roman, I think there is a high likelihood of Bray Wyatt capturing the championship. I think that whenever that happens, whenever that match is with Roman and Bray, that Bray Wyatt will be the overwhelming favorite to win that match for so many reasons. And so whenever that happens, I don't know. They may jump to it right away. They may wait. I don't know. But Bray did not show up on Raw, which I was very surprised at. And I think some of the make good was, well, hey, you got a surprise Brock Lesnar return and attack on Bobby. And you got a D-Generation X nostalgic finish to the show. You also got a returning Gallows and Anderson. So, I think that the fans, well, they didn't see Bray in person, still got to see what happened as a reminder on the screen. I know that's not exactly a consolation. And there's nothing worse, by the way, when you've paid for a ticket to go into Raw or a SmackDown or a pay-per-view. You're in person, and you see on the Titantron coming next week, and you see an advertisement for next week, and it's something massive, and you're like, son of a, right? That's the worst. It's the absolute worst. And the graphic on the screen, if I was in the audience, I would have been duped by it, because the graphic on the screen said Bray Wyatt returns, and it had like tonight, but it didn't outright say Bray Wyatt returns tonight. It was just Bray Wyatt returns. And then at the bottom, it was like tonight, meaning we're going to recap Bray Wyatt's return. So I think some of the people in the crowd in Barclay, I'd like to talk to somebody who attended, probably was under the impression that it meant that Bray Wyatt was going to come back and do something that night. And I'm just surprised that he didn't show. I'm not angry about it. I don't think it's a bad thing. When I talked to Anthony DeMarco last night in our current state of WWE, I said that I think Bray Wyatt, with his character, how special it is and how unique and dynamic and deep it is, that I don't need to see it all the time. And that was one of the faults of The Fiend towards the end, was that I felt he was overexposed. We saw him too much. And it's a character that I don't need to see very often. I'm not giving him the Roman Reigns schedule. It could be every other week. I'd be fine with that. If they do every week, especially if it's like every Raw or SmackDown, that would be way, way too much. And to me, it tells me that he's probably going to SmackDown. And I don't know. They might do Roman right away. We'll see. I don't think it's the best move because Logan Paul and Roman still have to get through their program. So I think that'll get cleared out, and maybe it's Roman Bray at Survivor Series. Do I dare say? They got the War Games thing going on at Survivor Series, but personally, I think Bray's going to target somebody else, and then he'll target Roman when things get serious on the road to WrestleMania. And if The Rock's not available, it's Bray Roman at WrestleMania. Okay, that's what I would do. The hell with Cody Rhodes. I am not a Cody Rhodes babyface fan at all. So, all right. So we're gonna take a break, give a little love to the sponsor of today's show, and then we're gonna be back with a ton more about Monday Night Raw, including an awesome segment with Dom and Ray that was just emotional. Another step towards the eventual physical altercation between Ray and Dom, the return of Anderson and Gallows, and a lot more. So everybody stay right here. We're gonna be right back. Do you wish you had some kind of cheat guide before you became an adult? Things that school or maybe your parents don't teach you? Then check out the book called Adulting 101, My First Apartment and Car. Just search Adulting 101, My First Apartment and Car on Amazon. You can find it there. And it's about the basic things that we take for granted, like the common skill of checking apartment complexes at night before you sign your lease, or doing a background check on your roommate before you move in together, or not co-signing for something. The book is designed to help those parents or guardians help their young ones transition from their home successfully. Whether that is getting a roommate, how to spot a really crappy landlord, or how not to buy an awful car, these are some of the things that they've learned throughout their own personal experiences. So check out Adulting 101, My First Apartment and Car on Amazon, and give your kids the cheat codes to things that we wish we had. Check out Adulting 101, Things I Wish I Knew, My First Apartment on Amazon today.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
All right, so what else happened on Monday night? Well, a lot. A lot happened on Monday night. The season premiere, by the way, if I didn't already mention that. Before I get to the Gallows and Anderson return, let's talk about Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn read Jey Uso the Riot Act. And Zayn insisted that Jey needed to, quote, be cool. And he called him, he said he needed to be more Usy. God, Sami Zayn is on fire right now. Jey looked to Reigns for support, but Reigns was clearly on Sami Zayn's side, and then Riddle interrupted the bloodline and challenged Reigns to a world title match. Reigns rejected that request, and Zayn, egged on by Jey, challenged Riddle instead, and then Reigns demanded that Jey stay at the arena with Zayn and insisted it was Jey's responsibility to guarantee Zayn a victory over Riddle. So we'll get to that in a minute, but the Sami Zayn interaction, he has breathed tolerability, enjoyability, entertainment back into the bloodline story. That's what Sami Zayn has done. He has, on his own, he has brought life and breathed life back into the bloodline story. Even though Roman Reigns has been champion for most of our lifetimes, at this point, it's tolerable because we're distracted by Sami Zayn being so good. It's like we've got this shiny new toy. And we're like, ooh, wow, look at this fun thing, right? It's very entertaining. It's fun. It's a nice distraction. But we need to also kind of look over here and go, wait a minute. We're being told to look over here. Is there a reason they don't want us to look over here? And that's because WWE wants us to kind of get off their back about how long Roman's been champion, I think. But I agree. This is, even though I understand it's a distraction, it's still a fun distraction. It is. Sami Zayn is one of the highlights of Raw and SmackDown. I don't even care anymore about the brand split with him or really anybody. It's because there isn't one. But it's so fun to see him interact. The Usi thing is going to catch on. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those. It might be a t-shirt soon. Sami Zayn already has the honorary Uso t-shirt that is selling out. By the way, it's being like, they can't make them fast enough from what I hear. But the Usi thing, you need to be a little more Usi. It's good stuff. Sami Zayn, it's hilarious. He's in a heel group, trying to be part of a heel group, serving the ultimate heel of Roman Reigns, and yet people love him because it feels like his true personality is coming out, and he's just trying to be this little weasel, but also suck up, and it's endearing, and I don't know how to break this down, but it's entertaining, and I'm loving what Sami Zayn's doing. You're hearing him not get booed at all. Really, not really anyone in the Bloodline's getting booed too much. A little bit with Roman, but is this faction turning babyface in front of our eyes? I don't think so. But, there's something happening here where people don't boo when the Bloodline come out. The only time people boo, I think, are when Roman Reigns retains. And then it's like it's just a reminder of like, oh, that's right. Yeah, we forgot about that. You were distracting us with this Sami Zayn thing, but oh, that's right. Yeah, you're still champion. I think the renewed boos will happen when Roman retains again and again and again. Now, given the fact that Logan Paul is not exactly a beloved figure and the main event is really for Saudi Arabia, not for anyone else watching, I think that the fans will give it a pass because it's absurdly obvious that Roman will retain, and I don't want Triple H to play any silly games there or joke around that Logan Paul could be actually... Stop it. There's no chance. None. There's no scenario you could bill me or try to sell me on in which Logan Paul walks out of that place with the championship. There's just nothing. So... Roman Reigns retains there, and it's all kind of for a lot of people, it's a throwaway pay-per-view. It just is. But we've got what? It's November 5th. 4 weeks? A little less than 4 weeks. Yeah, so it'll be here before you know it, and then we'll get on to the normal schedule of Survivor Series, and then I don't think there's anything in December. So after Survivor Series, guys, I think it's Rumble. I'm almost positive there's nothing in December. So that's how fast the Rumble's coming up. I understand it's October. It's mid-October. But the Rumble's going to be here before you know it. So then things get real fun real quick. All right, so Riddle and Sami Zayn. Riddle beats Sami Zayn after landing the RKO. Jey notably refused to help Zayn or allow Jimmy to assist their Bloodline teammate. It was in direct violation of Roman Reigns' orders. However, it was Zayn who told Jey not to interfere. So next week, you can imagine, or maybe on Friday, if Roman Reigns shows up, is that Jey will be scalded by Roman. And I don't know what the payoff is to this, but I'm watching every step of the way. So, okay, let's talk Gargano in Theory. I mean, fine match. We had Gargano beat Theory after landing one final beat. And Theory continues to tank, man. Not in a way that makes me concerned over his career. Just lately, he hasn't won a match in I don't know how long. Vince was very high on him. I understand why he was very high on him. He's still Mr. Money in the Bank, and maybe that's the point. Maybe we're being duped by having Theory not be a big part of the show. He's kind of hidden and tucked away. He's not on the Hulu cut. He's barely ever on the Hulu cut. And I think it's strategic. Because I think Triple H understands what he has in Theory. No pun intended. Austin Theory. He knows what he has with him. And I'm going to take the optimistic side and say that he's doing this strategically so that he is slowly faded out of the minds of the mainstream thought for fans. Getting him losses, not putting him in prominent storylines, hiding him off, or removing him from the Hulu cut. I don't know who makes that call, but that to me is signified of one of two things. Either the guy's about to be fired in 3, 4, 5 months, or they're doing this strategically. And I think that's the second part I hope is true. But he's also Mr. Money in the Bank. That's the biggest part of this. They're doing this so that when he does cash in, you're like, oh my God, that's right. He's Mr. Money in the Bank. You know, we're not reminded every single week. If he continues to lose, doesn't have a voice, he's kind of just there, but he's not. So watch out for Theory. Don't forget he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase. So I'm not forgetting about it. Neither should you. Okay, Rad. Where the hell did I get Rad? Ray. Oh, Lord. It's almost midnight here. Rey Mysterio defeats Chad Gable via pinfall, courtesy of a 619 and a springboard splash. And then Judgment Day members Dom and Rhea watch from ringside angrily as Rey won. And then Dominick was begging his dad to hit him again for the 18th time. And then that's when he slapped Rey when he refused to hit him. And then Dominick hit him from behind. And that's when everybody went to town on just beating him down. And it concluded with Dominick hitting Rey with the 619. So the story continues of Rey refusing to hit his son and Dominick being that spoiled brat that needs to get thrown off the top of a Hell in a Cell. And that's great. I want to feel that way because for so long I felt more for my morning, my morning cup of coffee. I felt more emotional attachment to that than I did Rey Mysterio. I felt more, I could come up with a bunch of inanimate objects. I shouldn't have brought up coffee. People are very emotionally attached to their coffee. You get my drift, though. Dominick was extremely boring. And now he's one of the most hated, if not the most hated man on the Raw side of things. You could argue. It's amazing. The people won't even let him talk. I'm glad they also didn't do the what crap this week either. There was no what chance. It was all just booing, and I'm all for that. If you want to boo so loud that you try to disrupt the person talking because you hate them so much, then have at it. That is way more palatable than having to sit and listen to what chants. I'm over the what chants, by the way. Unless Stone Cold's in the ring, I don't want to see or hear what chants. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak. It's very much a selfish thing to do. And I know people are going to say, you could call or you could pay your money to go in and do it and say anything you want. I guess that's true. And no one's going to stop you from doing the what thing. Number one, it's there's nothing illegal about it. You can do it till your heart's content. But just as a fan, watching fans, I'm over the what chants. It's been since 2002. Most of the fans today don't even know where this came from. Most of the fans do it, just go, oh, well, that's been what's going on for the last, 15, 20 years. I'm just going to do it. Or are they just, if they're new fans over the last year or 2 years, they're like, well, I'm just going to do it. Why are you doing it? Do you know where this even came from? Do you know what this means? Why are you doing it? Nope. Yeah. That's the reality of this, is most fans don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know why they're doing it or where it came from. It's just, the what chants are just the worst. But luckily, this week we didn't have that. And the best part of this Rey and Chad Gable matchup, I think, was the emotion on Rey's face that has changed to a bit of confliction. Instead of just crying and pouting and, sobbing like a child that his son is beating him up and scolding him, Rey has, if you notice, there was a moment of conflict in his mind where he was slapped by Dom, and there was that moment where you were wondering, like, oh, is he gonna do something? And he had that look on his face of kind of a mix of anger and sadness. It was a great job by Rey. And then at the end, with Rey getting beat down again by Dom, and Rey went back to being kind of Mr. Sad Daddy. But it's a nice step in the progression of eventually Rey snapping. And that's what I'm looking for. We're getting there. It's just taking time. And I think it could go to Mania, but boy, that's November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months, guys. 6 months. I don't think they can pull it off that long. So we're halfway to WrestleMania. I don't think that they're going to do in a 6-month story. It's probably going to conclude. Hell, it could actually do Survivor Series. You could do Rumble. That's also a very strong possibility. So lots to come there. It's just it's been really nice with these two. Just great. Damage Control sat down with Saxton for an interview, and An angry Bayley simply stared at the camera while Dakota Kai and Io did the talking, and that was interesting because Bayley always has something to say. In this case, she had nothing. She was speechless. So Candice LeRae takes out Bayley with a pinning combination, and then damage control assault LeRae and Bianca, who tried to make the post-match save. So this is clearly about Bayley. If anything else, it's where's Bayley's head at? What's going on? What is she thinking? What is she going to do? It's not an indication that she's turning face. There's just no. I think it's an indication that she realizes she needs to go darker, deeper, more vicious. That's what I think it is. So, all right, let's see. Dexter Lumis crashed Miz's birthday celebration with Maurice. Miz was gifted a baseball bat with giant exercise balls, and Maurice wound up face first in cake, and Miz fled the ring without his wife. Michaels and Dog convinced Miz to wrestle Lumis. If Lumis loses, he's gone for good. If Lumis wins, he gets a WWE contract. So I think we all know what's going to happen there. I think there's a pretty good indication of what's going to happen. There's no way that Dexter Lumis is losing that. But Michaels and Road Dogg convinced Miz to wrestle Miz next week. And so Lumis has his in-ring debut next week. But yeah, got to get some cake in the face. Not my favorite thing. Just this is the kind of get me up, relax, stretch moment. That's what this is. Omos, boy, continues to defeat local wrestlers, local talent, wherever the local wrestling school is. That's who they picked to have Omos just beat the holy hell out of. In this case, it was, I have the names in front of me, Joey, Ace, and Chico lost in a handicap match to Omos, who continues to just be stuck in a time continuum of, I don't know. I don't have the words. He's stuck in a bad loop. It's too late for creative puns. He's stuck in a constant pattern of beating local wrestlers. He's going backwards every week, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to make of it because I don't know where they want him to be. So I don't know if this is strategic. I'd imagine that they think he needs more work in ring. But how can he get more work in ring if all this is just squash matches? Like, there's only so much you can learn by beating the hell out of people and taking no offense. You know? You have to learn how to take offense and actually have a match. So that can't be the reason. The reason can't be, hey, listen, Omos, listen, big man, we got some plans for you, but we need you to have more in-ring live minutes with guys you can work with and they can teach you how to sell and all that. No, because all he's doing is crushing people. There's no competitiveness in the matches that Omos has. So I feel like he's not even learning much, if that's the objective, by just beating people. He knows how to beat people up and do it seemingly in a safe way. So, like, what are we doing here? To me, if that's not the case of just, he needs more live minutes, it's probably just the fact that they want to keep him in the minds of fans and also keep him, I guess, a little bit limber and still in the mindset of being in front of a live audience, but also keeping him in a holding pattern for whoever he's eventually going to face. That's what this is. That's it. I don't need to overthink it. I think it's that simple. So, I don't know. All right. Bray Wyatt, I said he didn't appear on Raw. He didn't appear in person, okay? He appeared on video in a mask, and the message was, revel in what you are. That's the general, no, that wasn't the general. That was the exact word-for-word messaging from Bray in a mask and kind of that scrambled vision, almost like how we all used to watch porn when we were 13. On TV. I don't think that I'm overstepping my boundaries here. For those of you that know, IYKYK, right? It was like scramble vision porn before like the internet. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? I feel like it feels like this has taken a sharp turn into a after show or a after dark episode rather. Spice Channel, Playboy Channel. Anything's ring a bell for you guys? Yeah. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. Let's continue on here. Bray, again, I don't know what this message means. Revel in what you are, meaning just be happy with who you are, embrace who you are, I guess. Right. WWE announced the return of Elias next week on Raw. So I guess Elroy is gone. We never really saw him, but Ezekiel has had time to grow his beard back and morph into Elias. So I guess Elias is returning next week. We'll see what that's like. Fine. Let's go, right? Like I'm not down on it. I'm not up on it. I'm just kind of like, okay, show me. What are we doing here? So, all right, then we got, I think that's pretty much it. Again, not a lot happened with the women on Raw. Not a very women-heavy Raw. So the Gallows and Anderson, I'll get to the DX thing. The Gallows and Anderson return was fun. So this to me was surprising. And after a 2.5 year absence, they're back. They reunited with AJ after you thought AJ was succumbing to the pressure of joining the Judgment Day. And then he says that he came back with friends. I'm not talking about you. Gallows and Anderson come out to a big pop in Brooklyn. And that's when they all brawl. They try to get their hands on Finn, but he escapes, as does Dominick, which I like. I like that those two slimy, sniveling cowards got away, because it'll be that much more satisfying when they finally get their head knocked off their shoulders. It's just, God, Triple H knows how to build heat in a way that Vince didn't know how or didn't have the guts to, at least in the last several recent years. So, wow, this was surprising. It's nice to see them back. It also bolsters the tag team division again, bolsters the career of AJ that has been up, down, absent, back, not injured. He's been all over the damn place the last several years with Omos and then not, and then missing for a month after WrestleMania, like just bizarre stuff. So at this point, it's good to see Gallows and Anderson back with AJ, and they have a lock of a 6-on-6 match at some point between Gallows and Anderson and AJ and the Judgment Day. It's going to happen. But good stuff here. No problem. Then we get a reuniting of DX. And before that, though, DX had gone in and Triple H is sitting at the gorilla position with his glasses on and headset on, like as he's producing the show. And they do their sophomoric stuff. And, they're talking about, male genitalia and chickens and all that stuff. And they're cussing, but it's clear, it's blurred. It's audio blurted out, and also their mouth is got a little graphic on it, so you can't even read what they're saying. But it's fine. It was a callback to the whole "I did not sleep with that young intern" speech, I think, back in '97. So DX comes out at the end of the show with a tank, and I feel like I've seen this so many times. How many times are we going to see like DX being reunited? Like, I feel like that we've done this 10 times or more, with between the Raw 25s and the Raw 15s and the 1000th Raw, all the I don't know. Like, I love DX, but maybe this is the final curtain call. No pun intended. Because even Michael said that, if we're doing this in another 25 years, put us out of our misery. I think he feels a bit embarrassed at that age to be doing this. That's how I feel. I think he feels. It's just my guess. But boy, some of them are so old. Triple H looks the best out of the bunch. Michaels, I'm glad he's starting to grow his hair back and wore a hat so we couldn't see his receding hairline, and he looked more like Michaels. Road Dogg, look, he's put on a little weight. He's older. I don't care. That's what happens. He's not wrestling anymore. Sean Waltman looks decent for everything he's done to his body drug-wise. Billy Gunn obviously is not in WWE. He's with another promotion. So, I really think that it was fun. It made me feel like I was 15 again for a moment, right? Hearing the full DX music and entrance. It was a feel-good moment. It really was. I'm glad nobody came out to interfere. None of them can take any bumps, okay? Like, especially Triple H. I was thinking to myself, well, could anyone take any bumps here? Or can anyone even do anything physical? I don't think so. Nobody, right? Michael's in his knees, and Road Dogg doesn't look like he's even anywhere near being able. Like, I don't think anyone can even legally take a bump given their medical policy. So it was good that they didn't do anything other than do their shtick, do the greatest hits, and call it a night. It was fun. The crowd reacted. It made me feel like it was, for a brief moment, late 90s. And Attitude Era-esque thing. And the one critique, because I got to have something, is they're saying 25 years of DX. I'm like, well, you haven't been around for the last, 15 years of it. If you're telling me it's 25 years of DX, nope. Okay, because that would imply that it's been going on for 25 years straight. Obviously not the case. It's been 25 years since it was birthed. So if it's the birthday of DX, I'd buy that. But don't give me 25 years of DX. You guys were together for only a few years before Triple H went out on his own. You can forget that, right? So the reality is, it's really like 2 years of DX. It feels like they've been together for 25 years because they keep reminding us of DX and do documentaries on them and constantly bring them back for Raw retros and all this stuff. But the reality is, it's basically Raw. It's not 25 years of DX. It's 2 years of DX or less. I think Triple H was with that version of DX in China, which was really cool. He gave a shout out to China. I like how X-Pac Shaw Waltman did that. I don't think she has been publicly recognized like that. I don't know at all. And the fact that I think Vince isn't there, and Triple H is now taking the shoes of Vince in that role. He has allowed that to happen because, hey, China was a massive star in that group, and she really added so much. It's such a shame that she passed. It really is. She did so much for the industry. She did have an ego. Every time Jim Ross talks about her, he says that she felt she should have gotten Stone Cold Steve Austin money, that she should have been main eventing this and that. So she did have an ego problem and a bit of a warped perception of how big of a star she was. So there was that, and he's very candid about that she's just, she was a bit of a drama queen, and obviously the Triple H and Stephanie drama actually happening backstage, and Triple H cheated on China with Stephanie and then eventually left China for Stephanie. All that. I mean, there's a lot there. But the fact that remains is that China, Joanie Laurer, was an amazingly impactful star for the group, for the WWE, for women as a whole at the time that were nothing more than sex objects. So anyway, that was really cool that they gave her that shout out for X-Pac to do that. But it was the greatest hits of DX. That's all this was. So no complaints. It made me feel for a moment, but it also made me feel very old. I mean, I'm 37. That means when DX was birthed, I was 12. Okay, that's actually exactly right, because that's when I started watching 25 years ago. 1997. That's when I started watching. So, I don't know. Many of you have gone longer than I have, or maybe you just started watching. But anyway, this was a fun episode of Raw. Cool returns. Just nice progression in storylines. Just an overall solid show. It's just an overall really solid show that I think did some wonders for pushing things forward. And I'm looking forward to next week. So that's it for me tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed this show. I hope you enjoyed the WWE podcast. If you want to go ad-free, Patreon's a great place to do it. Patreon.com/WWE podcast if you want ad-free. Or you can go ad-free right on Apple. There's an Apple on the Apple podcast page for us. There's an ad-free button right at the top of the screen. You can go ad-free for $10 for the entire year. That means 2 months totally free, ad-free for everything that we do. Or you can do 99 cents a month over at Apple Podcasts. It's up to you. So now tomorrow is the mailbag. I'm going to try to get to it. I've also got the video that I'm recording for my 1-hour show on the DuPont network, DuPontNow.com, by the way. Check it out and support them. Totally free. And so I'm hoping to get to that. I'm also trying to make the mailbag kind of a live show every week. Don't hold me to it. But I'd like to have, how about this? Instead of saying the mailbag is going to be a live show every week, how about I just say that I'm going to try to do a live show every week? Now, the mailbag makes the most sense, but Wednesdays are the worst days for me from a work perspective, from podcast perspective, from a video podcast perspective. I've got a lot of things on my plate on Wednesdays. So how about just for now, I'll try to at least tell you that I'll be doing a live show every week. That's a little bit more palatable. So if you're wondering what live show I'm going to do, follow my Twitter feed at wrestling_audio, or follow us on Patreon and get everything ad-free, and you'll be up to date on all the news too. So, all right. That's it for me tonight, guys. I really do appreciate it. If you guys like us, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you love us, well, do that too. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and I will talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.